Hey guys, and welcome to an improvement series that I'm doing for the month of November with Irelia. For those who don't know me, I'm Necklace or Non-Entropy. I was an Irelia OTP for 1 year during 2022. During that year, I went from Gold to Masters, playing Irelia and learning her for the first time. And I never really took her as far as I wanted to. Um, so if we look at my OPGG in 2021, I was gold. In 2022, I hit masters. And then in split one of 2023, I made it to around 350 odd LP on Irelia. But I always really wanted to take her further and, try and get more out of the champion and really perfect her and get as good as I possibly could on her. If you look at my OPGG, basically season 22, this is where I played the most Irelia. I got in over 700, or yeah, pretty much exactly 700 games that season on Irelia. This is when I went from gold to masters. And then the next split, I still played the most Irelia, uh, but after pretty much during split one, sorry, I quit her and picked up a whole bunch of different champs like Tristana, Annie, Cassante, Ahri. I played some Silas, some Jace with lower games. And then after this, you can see I pretty much went on to play a lot of other champions that weren't Irelia, and I didn't really give her as much time. But the other day I was looking through some of my old VODs and clips and just made me really feel like I wanted to, you know, take her further than what I had because I felt like I had a lot of champ mastery, a lot of uh, knowledge on the champion. I had good limits and good mechanics, but I never really put all of those things together into a high level package, a really high level Irelia. And so that's what I'm trying to do now during this month of November. I don't expect, to be at an insane level after November, but I really want to focus during this month and try to reach as high a level as I can. So in order to do so, I'm going to, challenge myself and pick up some new habits. So for in terms of league, I'm going to be playing Irelia only for this month. After November, I'm going to be doing the same this again, but with some different champions, potentially Akshan or Silas, two champions that I've played a lot of in the past, and I really want to get a lot of champ mastery on those. But for November at least, I'm fully Irelia only. I'm not going to be playing any other champion unless I'm off roll. I'm going to be playing a minimum of 7 games, and I'm going to be reviewing each game and then 5 minute breaks between games. This is really important. I think even after a win, insta queuing lowers your chance of winning your next game by a lot. The game's really hard. You just need a break. Even if you're not tilted or anything, you can easily be very mentally tired after a hard game. So 5 minute break minimum, and potentially longer if it's been a really hard game. And then the final one, this is really important for me at least. Irelia is a champion with a lot of potential. There are a lot of different plays you can go for. You can really um, all in or kill the enemy champion at any point, especially if you have good mechanics and know your limits. So when you're playing a champion like that, you really need to be disciplined and know when the right moments are. So when it comes to Irelia, having high dopamine is pretty much the worst thing you can have because it's really just going to make you go for bad plays, and that's ultimately not what you want to do on Irelia. Then outside of League, I have terrible sleep. I'm really inconsistent. I go to bed at bad times, so that's a big thing for me. It really changes how I play the game. So going to I would say how your sleep uh, how you sleep isn't necessarily that big a problem as in the times that you wake up and go to bed, but it's really important to be consistent about it. Um, so I'm going to be going to bed at 2 every night and waking up at 10 every morning. And I'm going to try and keep that as consistent as possible. I realize now this is marked down as 10 p.m., so I'm going to be sleeping from 2 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is not advisable. There we go. Then for exercise, exercise basically what you have here, sleep, exercise, and food, those are the cornerstones of living a good life, a happy life, and an effective life, being good at whatever you're doing. So when it comes to sleep, exercise, food, in this order, these are the most important things to maintain if you want to live an effective and happy life. And in the past, I've gone through periods where I've had really good sleep, really good exercise, really good food, and I just felt so much better. I improved so much faster. I played so much better. I was so much happier. So for the month of November, I'm really going to try and build habits in these three areas of my life. When it comes to exercise, I'm not going to be too strict about it. I think when you're trying to set yourself goals, um, they need to be goals within your reach. It's really easy to get motivated, at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., lying in bed on your phone and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do the perfect day. I'm going to do everything correctly. But ultimately, that's not always replicable day to day. So it's much better to set yourself good goals that you're able to achieve consistently, at least what I find. So for this, one form of exercise daily minimum, apart from uh, apart from days that are designated as rest days. So yeah, and then post breakfast and post lunch walks just to help digest food. You don't want to play directly after you've eaten. Then for food, it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna bulk basically. I'm not gonna go too much into that. Then for YouTube, I'm going to be uploading all my raw VODs. There's already a playlist on my channel with all of the VODs from today. And then I'm also going to be uploading all the reviews that I do so that you guys can learn with me and learn from my mistakes and hopefully improve yourself. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be uploading all my highlights from the week. And then I'm also going to be doing a matchup of the day video where it basically just goes through one game I played that day that I felt like I played the matchup well. And I'm going to be breaking down how I played that matchup. So yeah, that's pretty much all there's left to say. Um, I'm really excited to be going on this journey and really trying to push myself. I think that's kind of my biggest problem in my life is not pushing myself as hard as I could, and I have a tendency to be a bit of a slacker. So I think this will go really well. Okay, so the first matchup of today is going to be Irelia versus Ahri. Now, before I went into this game, I knew it was going to be a really hard game just from their team comps. Shaco isn't too hard a champion to play against. He's pretty easy for Irelia, but Shaco Ahri can pose quite a bit of threat in the mid jungle. And then in skirmishes, he can be quite annoying with his boxes and his clone. He has a pretty decent amount of CC in his kit, and the more CC there is in a team comp, the harder it is for Irelia to play. And then Ashe and Braum are just a nightmare duo for Irelia. Ashe by herself is a really easy champion uh, for Irelia to deal with. With the W, you can negate a lot of her damage, and then she's really squishy. She's low mobility, so her alone is really easy to kill. But if you combine her with some amount of frontline and CC, she kites you really easily, especially with the slow, and it can be hard to stay on top of her. And the Brom especially makes it really tricky. He has a lot of CC, a lot of frontline, a lot of tankiness. He's just really hard to deal with for Irelia. So in a skirmish, the combo of Ahri, Ashe, Braum is really hard to deal with. Now, the one good thing about this game for us is that we do have good side laning. Irelia is really good into both Jace and Ahri on the side lane. So that's one thing that I identified going into this game. Now, with these reviews, I'm going to try and keep them a bit shorter. When I learned Irelia the first time taking her from gold to masters, I really, really was very strict on the end of review. And basically, the end of review, the way I think about it is you have this timeline of events, right? So here we have the 0 minutes, and here we have the Nexus exploding, right? So at any point in the game, every decision you make creates an alternate reality. So let's say at, you know, 15 minutes you're in a skirmish and you decide to R flash on a particular enemy champion. That's then going to create an alternate reality with an alternate ending. And whenever you make a mistake, that alternate reality is now no longer ideal. You shouldn't be there in the first place. So if you continue to review after you make that mistake, all the mistakes subsequent to that are just a flow on of your previous mistake, and you shouldn't be looking at that game in that way anyway. If you, let's say, you mess up an all in the lane and you die, and then after that, the lane is really hard to play. There's no point in reviewing that because if you hadn't made the mistake, the lane would look completely different. So early on, for now, there's a lot of rust, I would say. Not necessarily mechanically. My basic mechanics are good, but how I play fights specifically, outside of actually how I press my keys, there are a lot of problems, and I'm misexecuting a lot. There's also a big problem of mental stack. I'm quite overwhelmed with a lot of things that I found easy back when I played Irelia more as an OTP. So early on, there are going to be a lot of issues. Now, in this lane, I think I played this lane fairly well. I'm happy with how I played this lane. I'm just there weren't too many windows that I missed. I think I did a good job finding trades. And it basically just came down to a point where I was up 20 CS. I was doing a really good job in my 1v1. And sometimes this is what it looks like on Irelia. You don't always have to solo kill your opponent to win the game. If you're just farming consistently, you're going to be set up in a pretty good position where even pre-Bork, you're going to be strong enough to take some skirmishes, and that's what happened this game. I just kept my farm up, the enemy team made a mistake, and I was able to capitalize on this with this skirmish, picking up a double kill. I think, really what this game came down to, I had a really good early Bork timer, 8 minutes. What this came down to was a problem of complacency where I felt really strong, so I ended up making some stupid decisions based off of that. I traded R for R, which was good here. Yeah, this was the first instance where I felt really overwhelmed in a fight. Just executing this, I was quite overwhelmed, and what ended up happening was I, I'll be honest, the Shaco kind of mind controlled me here. I picked the wrong Shaco, and we ended up losing the skirmish of that. How I felt in coming out of this play and reflecting on it in the game, I really felt like if I had more of a mental stack here, or I wasn't so overwhelmed, I could have done a much better job identifying the correct Shaco here, and that wouldn't have been a real problem. After this, I called for grubs here. And this is just really good to do if you're ever ahead on Irelia. Just call neutral objectives. That's basically the main reference point at this point. If you can take these fights, it's really good to just call these objectives, because now we can just easily win these fights as a team. And not only are we picking up the objective, but here we kill Shaco, for example, and we're just picking up kills and winning the fight. So here I kill them under tower. I get some... Yeah, this was something I was really, really unhappy with in game, because already in game I had identified the fact that Shaco could be here. He already died, but I just didn't really care. I realized it in game, and I just didn't listen to that part of myself that was telling me, okay, Shaco can be here. You should just reset. And I felt just, I didn't really feel like I was taking that fully seriously. So this death is really, really bad. I would honestly prefer dying here that I just didn't realize Shaco could be mid. That's a better problem to have. But yeah, this was just a really stupid death. So that was definitely under review because again, in this game, based on the team comps, I know I have to be really strong this game, purely just because of how annoying the enemy comp is to deal with. I have to be able to steamroll them in fights. Okay, Irelia versus Zoe. So this is a matchup that can be quite tricky. And but from this review, there's a really, really good takeaway that's going to help you and help me in these type of matchups. So the way I think about it is Irelia is an all-in champion. Zoe's a burst champion. Um, and that means that the lower HP you are, the more it benefits Zoe. Here's a concept that's one of the most important concepts for Irelias to know, and it's the damage graph. Okay, so here on this graph, for the x-axis, we're going to have time. So this is time, and this is damage, right? So a champion like Zoe, she's a burst champion, so she's gonna have a pretty early spike in damage. A lot of her damage output comes out up front with her burst, with electrocute. She lands her bubble, she lands her Q, one shot. Now, the way Irelia's damage output works is up front there's a little less damage. Sure, you can land your E, some Qs, so there's going to be some damage early, but then her damage just keeps going. So she has really good sustained damage over a long period of time, where Zoe's damage really just flattens out after she's used her abilities. And this is true for other champions like Syndra, like Victor, Zoe, a lot of mages, a lot of assassins as well, like Kiana, for example. And into these champions, it's really important that you conserve your HP as high as possible. Because the way it works is as long as the enemy champion can't kill you with one rotation of spells, you will win the fight on the back end. So let's say you're this much HP, right? Let's say you're, let's put some numbers here. Let's say this is 1000 damage and this is 0 damage. This is about, 300 damage. So let's say you're at 500 HP. Okay, that's going to be right around here. If you're starting a fight into Zoe at 500 HP, she's going to kill you before you're able to get your damage out. Whereas if you are starting the fight at, say, 700 HP, the damage, Zoe is not able to kill you in one rotation of spells. So you're going to be able to survive long enough that your extended damage is going to win the fight. And that's the importance of maintaining your HP as high as possible. And that's what you're going to see is my mistake in this VOD. So pretty early on, I took a trade here, for example, which, is fairly even. It's pretty mediocre. Sure, I have a bit better sustained than Zoe. Not, it is a bit better sustained because I have second win and D-Blade, so I have a bit of lifesteal, but she has an extra potion anyway, so it's not going to make that much difference. But here, the problem is now, when we're trading HP for HP, I'm just getting closer and closer to that threshold where she has kill threat on me, and I'm not going to be able to survive long enough to be able to survive that damage and then win on the back end of the trade. Here, and that's kind of what you see here, is now I get a bit lower, and then it's much harder to trade. Now, this is another instance, this river skirmish, where I'm just a bit too overwhelmed with the laning. This is just going to be something that's going to be improved in time, especially if you're new to Irelia and you're learning Irelia. Be easy on yourself. You don't have to try not to force yourself to be aware of everything that's going on in the map early in your journey. Over time, as you get better at Irelia, you'll do everything with less effort. So then you can give more attention to other parts of the game. Here, for example, I was more overwhelmed with I wouldn't necessarily say overwhelmed, but with this with the trading I was doing with Zoe, for example, here I'm looking to see if there's a potential window where I can trade on her. and then with the wave crashing, that I just didn't see Karthus moving in here. And then once I did see him, I was too late, and so I started moving, and this is just the wrong play. Whereas if I had been aware beforehand, I could have come up with a better strategy here earlier to not compensate so much for my Karthus, because what ends up happening is Zoe gets a triple kill, and now the game is lost. I mean, it's not theoretically lost, but you don't want to be giving your laner a triple kill this early. Okay, so next up we have another Zoe VOD, and this was pretty much the exact same thing that we talked about in the first Zoe VOD. What ends up happening, she's a bit late to lane here, so I decide to slow it down, and then I hard shove and crash the second wave and move to my Graves who was invading. But what you'll see here is I took quite a heavy trade. I took quite a heavy trade here where I traded a bit too deep and I ended up taking some tower shots and the Electro. So here, yes, I did also get a pretty good trade on the Zoe, but she's Electro Ignite Zoe. She just has way more burst than me. So I don't want to heavy trade and get the lane too low to the point where she can just one-shot me before I get my damage output. So I think really going forward, my takeaway, especially for the Zoe matchup, is really try to stay healthy pre-first base. If you see any really long all-ins, you can take them, but really try and avoid those short trade with Zoe's, even if they look favorable, because a lot of the time even if the short trade is slightly winning for you, what ends up happening is because you're, both taken to these lower HPs. Now look at me. Now I'm under a lot of threat here because, I took us both to low HP, but she's much happier on low HP than me because of her burst. So now it's really hard to play under tower, and on this low HP, I end up dying. So really simple learning for Zoe. Try and keep, especially pre-first base when you don't have vamp, you don't have good sustain, and your damage is a bit lower. Try and limit those trades. Try and just stay healthy, get your farm, and go for only the really, really high value trades. Okay, Irelia versus Kassadin. So this is a very easy Irelia matchup. This is just a kind of bread and butter matchup. So level 1 here. I like to honestly take it a lot more easy into Kassadin. I think 3 stacking is the best option and cheater recalling, as you're about to see. A lot of people tend to heavy trade quite a bit with Kassadin at this point, and I honestly think it's not the best way to go. I think here I could have potentially done a triple Q on the first 3 melees and Q'd on him, but I actually don't think this would have been the optimal play here. I think it's much better just to take it a bit slower. Deny him the CS and stack a big wave, and then off that wave, then I can go for my cheater recall and come back, and the lane's in a really really good position. Then from here, what I just do is I slowly bounce the wave, and what I like to do off this massively stacked wave, because I got my cheater recall in, so now I have an item advantage, and because I am have a level advantage because there are so many minions here, I like to just try and dive off this wave. So that's what I ended up doing here. I just do a dive. I think arguably, if we look at the execution of this, the Q is fine, so he doesn't flash out of the range. Yeah, I think that's executed pretty well. And off this, he just loses a massive wave, and I'm up 20 CS now, and then the wave comes back out onto my side. I didn't want to hold this for too long because I saw grubs were coming up, and I did want to contest this. Now, here's a bit of a sad thing, because Kassadin actually plays this pretty well, getting the level up he needs for level 6. And then, but here I misplay because if I'm, I just misread my damage here. I thought I had enough damage to kill him with the W, but here if I just kite better and auto one more time, then I can just auto W. But yeah, unfortunately he doesn't die there. Yep, this was all whatever. Yep. I think yeah, this was kind of the end of review play here. I did a good, that should have been a kill, honestly, onto the Kassadin in the 1v1. But even without that, I'm pretty fed here. The problem here was I didn't I kind of wanted to fight Kassadin. Um, I thought this would be a free kill, but I didn't anticipate the Lux still being around here. We did, I know we saw them here, but I just didn't anticipate them still hovering him. I thought they would have left already and been on Drake, but they were still here. So, you know, don't flip, basically, is what that comes down to. And then after this, the game got quite hard, and I do want to just keep that review a bit more brief. So the final VOD I had for today was the Irelia versus Fizz game. Unfortunately, there were only 6 matchups today because I played a Jarvan autofill game. Or not autofill, but I got my secondary jungle role, so not able to show you that. But I will be recording this matchup separately in the matchup of the day video that I'll upload right after that, right after this. So yeah, that's basically all there is to say for this video. This is just day 1. There's going to be probably like 25 plus of these episodes for the month of November. I'm going to take one off day a week on Saturday just to avoid burnout and just to take an easy day. But yeah, I'm really happy with how today went. I think my main takeaway from today was well, a few things. Let's just write it down. So the main takeaway was definitely the mental stack. The mental stack, for those who don't know, basically it's just the amount of attention you can allocate to everything. It's the amount of focus you have. And the more rusty you are, or the more unfamiliar you are with a champion, the more attention or focus you have to put on it. So me being new to Irelia, today I really felt like I had to put a lot of attention and focus on things that I wouldn't have had to before when I was an OTP. So that caused me to misexecute in a lot of situations and miss a lot of plays that I should have realized were happening. And I wasn't able to think as far ahead in the game. There were a lot of, I would say the second thing, there were a lot of questions that I couldn't answer today. And basically what I mean by that is I would come into the mid game, I would press tab, and I would try and think about what I need to do to win the game. And a lot of the time I struggled coming up with that, but I really don't mind that problem because the more I play, the more I'm going to be able to solve those problems. And I'm just happy that I'm in the mindset of asking myself those questions in the first place. Then the third takeaway is quite a specific gameplay thing. It's the importance of maintaining your HP uh, into these burst champions like the Zoe, like the Kiana, those like the Fizz, those types of burst champions. We really need to be maintaining our HP so that we have enough HP to win extended all-ins rather than those quick burst trades. Now, that's not to say you can't take short trades, but they need to be very strategic. You can't just be heavy trading for no reason on Irelia. You need to be very specific about what type of trades you're taking. So, in these types of matchups, really important to be maintaining your HP. And those are really the big 3 takeaways from that I got from today. If you have any questions, I'll link my Discord down below if you want to reach out to me, or you can leave a comment. But yeah, thanks for watching.